Hey there, powerful soul. Welcome to the replay of this unscripted, unplanned, impromptu transmission on comparisonitis. Welcome. Come on in. If you are tuning in, watching the replay, and you want to make your presence known, then I invite you to comment and let me know that you were here, that you tuned in, and share what has resonated with you. If you feel that I have shared something that you find valuable or resonates, and you know there are some people in your community, in your network, that would also find value and resonate with what I've shared, if you would share this with them, I would really appreciate that. I'm going to take a moment to sip my tea, take a breath, and then we shall begin. If you want to tune in and let me know how you be today, that would be amazing. I find God gives me the most impromptu times to share a message. Hey there, how are you, my dear? And I am sitting in sacred space, sipping tea, and started to have this internal message come through about comparisonitis, specifically for firstborn daughters or those who are a first of many, and the ego's temptation to want to remain the first, and the invitation for shifting from comparisonitis and returning to cultivation. And I actually had written a transmission for cultivation, spiritual cultivation, that I will share in a separate post. And if you're watching this elsewhere, if you want to make sure you're connected with me on Instagram and Facebook, that way you can actually read the written transmission. But there's something else coming through about comparisonitis that felt really important to share, specifically for firstborn daughters or those who are a first of many. Because when you are used to leading the way, when you are used to being the one who is creating a new way, whether it's a generational blueprint for your lineage and your bloodline, or being the first in your industry to do something, or being the first to accomplish something, or being the first in your family to embody something, do something, have something, experience something, the ego starts to cultivate this perspective, this perception around you remaining the first always, in whichever way, shape, form that shows up as. This could look like something showing up in your relationship with your beloved. This could look like something showing up in your leadership, in your business. This could look like something showing up as a woman. The way that you look, or the way that your body is, or the way that you, just who you be. There are so many instances of how this phenomenon of comparisonitis can show up in our lives, and it creeps in a really, really subtle and sneaky ways. And I find these internet streets is one of the most subtle and sneaky ways. We are unconsciously consuming as we are also consciously consuming. However, what we must remember about these internet streets is that as we are consuming content, as we are engaging with others, as we are interacting with others, our conscious mind is only creating 5% of our reality, and it is our unconscious mind that is creating 95% of our reality. And so what is happening on an unconscious level is what we really want to tune into. It's what we really want to be mindful of. It's what we really want to pay attention to. Because if you have been programmed and conditioned to be a certain way, be the one, be the first, be the high achiever, be the go-getter, then as you are consuming content and you are engaging and interacting with people, and you see someone shining in their brilliance, or doing something amazing, or their beloved loving them a certain way, or romancing them a certain way, you may find that you start to unconsciously compare yourself. And when we do this, there is an internal message that you are saying to yourself that either you're not enough, that you need to compete, that you need to be better than, that you need to show up to keep up. And this is where you fall prey to misalignment. Now, there have been instances where this shows up inside of romantic relationships and can sabotage. And I fell prey to this in my relationship with the mister, where I would see women share things about their relationships with their beloveds. And there was a season in our journey where we were going through a very difficult season of growth, of maturity between us as individuals and as a couple, as we were becoming not just a couple, but actually becoming one as sacred union. Because many are in relationship with each other, but they're still two individuals navigating. It's very few and it's very rare that we see where individuals have done the work, the inner growth work, the transformational process work, the purification work that is necessary to start to become one, as the sacred text says. And we were in a journey of navigating this, of becoming one, and we were going through it, the growing pains. And I remember I would see women share about their relationships with their beloved, or they would share what their beloved had done for them. And I started to feel feelings that I wasn't quite familiar with, and it startled me. Feeling resentful, started to compare my relationship with him with theirs, and I started to notice how I felt about that. I didn't feel good about that. And so what I had to master within myself was how to be with whatever was coming up as I was observing and noticing the comparisonitis and also the emotions, the feelings that were surfacing in my vessel. I had to tune into the sensations that were happening in my body and notice what were the messages that were coming through from those sensations. What were those sensations trying to tell me? What were those sensations trying to show me? Now, if you are not present in your body and you have a pattern of bypassing, of suppressing, numbing, avoiding what is coming up within you, in your emotions, in your vessel, that you're disconnected from the sensations in your body, then you will find that there is an accumulation that starts to happen where you are accumulating these experiences and they're layering on top of each other, and you don't even consciously realize it because you're unconsciously creating this. And so I'm grateful that I had entered a season during this process of us becoming one, where I was actually able to be aware of myself in those moments where comparisonitis was surfacing, and I could tune into what was happening in my body and what were the emotions, and be able to identify them, but also what was the message, what was the sensation showing me through the comparisonitis, and what was there that got to be alchemized, what was there that got to be transmuted, what was there that got to be healed and made whole again. And so I find comparisonitis is an invitation to return to cultivation. But we must heighten our self-awareness in order to do that. Now, when I navigated this process, there was an opportunity for me to deepen into vulnerability, which then creates deeper intimacy with my beloved, where I can share what I'm navigating, and not from a lens of comparing him to other couples or us to other couples, but the actual experience I am having. And that started to create a beautiful alchemic process within our union. Now, a lot of people don't do this because they're either reacting to the sensations that they're experiencing, where they feel these sensations, they feel these emotions, they feel these thoughts, or they're experiencing these thoughts, and maybe they react, meaning they go to their beloved and they start complaining or blaming or shaming or judging or criticizing because they're not doing what they want them to do, or they're not doing what this person is doing, or they're not doing who they compare themselves to. But what I'm inviting you into here is, how do you go deeper in yourself first, of understanding what are you actually experiencing in these moments of comparisonitis? And can you actually be with the experience that you're having? This is how we go deeper into self-mastery. Now, this is also something that can show up in leadership and business, where you're amongst many on these internet streets, especially if you're inside of groups, especially if you're inside of communities and networks, and people are sharing all sorts of things. They're sharing their milestones, they're sharing their accomplishments, they're sharing their achievements, they're sharing how much money they've made, they're sharing what opportunities have opened up, they're sharing what deals that they have landed, they're sharing their sales. And depending on where you're at on your process, where you're at on your leadership journey, you can see that. And if you're not fully aware of yourself in those moments, you can notice, or you could not notice, that you've been activated or triggered with the comparisonitis. And you go out and you do something in reaction to that because you're trying to keep up, or you're trying to follow the trend, or you're trying to compete, or you're trying to do what you think you must do to win or make more money or be more accomplished or get the client or land the deal or get the opportunity. But you're, again, falling prey to misalignment. And so there is a moment of interception where we have to be fully present with ourselves in the midst of these experiences, where we're able to do what I call check and correct thyself. But in order to check and correct thyself, we have to be present. And to be present, we have to be devoted to our spiritual cultivation. Again, there's a written transmission that I've written about this. I'm going to share that after this so that you can read it. I find that it will really penetrate your soul and cause you to remember truth. We live in a time right now with these internet streets that there's so much information out there. There's so much people are sharing. There's a lot of different perspectives out there. And so what I find is necessary, what I find is important, is that we return to truth on our sacred path as we are navigating life, love, and legacy and leadership. And so comparisonitis is a real phenomenon that shows up. And for those who claim they don't experience it, when they come behind the scenes and I interact with them and work with them, I find they have, and they are. And so this is where we drop the veil of masking. This is where we drop the veil of pretending. This is where we drop the veil of hiding. This is where we drop the veil of perfectionism. There is a real temptation to perform because we believe that that is what is necessary to succeed, to be loved, to win, to make more money, to accomplish and achieve our goals and our dreams and our desires and our visions. However, this concept of perfectionism is very likely a trauma response where the wounded inner child is still seeking the love, the praise, the validation, the approval from her parents or her caretaker. And as a firstborn daughter or a first of many, you have taken on this sense of achievement and accomplishment to heart. And somewhere along your journey, you have entangled your identity and your self-worth and your inherent value with how much you can earn, how much you can achieve, how much you can accomplish. And sometimes that can get entangled in your love life. And so when you find yourself comparing parts of your journey, whether it's your relationship or your love life or your leadership and your successes, my invitation to you is to return to your spiritual cultivation, because our spiritual cultivation, hey there, thank you for tuning in, is the process of self-mastery. And the process of self-mastery is how we go deeper into the truest versions of ourselves that have these destinies that God already created for us to experience in our life, love, and leadership. The invitation is to be present with the real, true emotions and sensations in your body and the thoughts that are surfacing, without avoiding them, without suppressing them, without bypassing them, without trying to make meaning out of those experiences, but being present with whatever they're telling you. What are they coming to show you? What are the messages that they're surfacing to reveal to you? Our minds are meaning-making machines. And when we are navigating the journey of self-mastery and we feel the emotions and the activations and the triggers and the different experiences internally, especially with comparisonitis, Often there's a story that wants to surface to make meaning out of that. But when you can intercept before you get caught up in the rabbit hole of rumination on the story, and you can just be present with the emotions, with the sensations, with the trigger, the activation, there's something powerful that happens in that moment. That's when you drop the comparisonitis. It's when you return to your cultivation. That's when you return to the truth of who you are and what's already available for you. And you return to alignment in your co-creating with God. What you do the moment you feel triggered into the comparisonitis will determine if you go left or right. Left, misalignment; right, alignment. And we fall prey to misalignment in our journeys because this is not a perfect path. But what happens when we fall prey to misalignment is the time and the energy and the effort, the growing pains, the lessons. And although often some of that is inevitable, we will have to learn some of that on our journey as we are evolving and growing into who we were called and created to be. There comes a point on this path of sacred devotion where you actually get to start to consciously choose your alignment, where you get to consciously choose who you're going to be as a woman, lover, and leader, where you get to consciously choose you're going to follow the aligned path rather than falling into these sabotaging patterns of misalignment. Because it's the sabotaging patterns within yourself that's creating sabotage outside of yourself. Sabotaging your love life, sabotaging your successes, sabotaging your next level, sabotaging what's already been available for you and inevitable for you. Self-mastery is a call for sacred responsibility for who you be, moment to moment, day by day, in the way that you show up in the world and in your relationships and in your leadership, in the work that you do. It's a call to be fully 100% honest with yourself about what you are experiencing as you are engaging, whether if it's on these internet streets or in real life. And I find right now comparisonitis is very high frequency wise because of the time that we're in, both the era of technology and the access we have to see so much. We have never lived in a realm and in an era like we are now where we have access to see a lot. But also the time right now that we're in of the holy days. So this is a time where we're ending the calendar year and people will start to share their wins or what they accomplished or what them and their beloved did this year. This is the time of the year where people share what they received as gifts. This is the time of the year where there's a lot of celebration that can happen. That is when comparisonitis actually increases for many. But this is one of the things that many don't want to acknowledge and admit, because beneath that there may be a level of shame, feeling shame that you're having that experience, feeling shame the moment you've noticed, oh, I compared myself to that person. I compared my relationship. I compared my business. I compared my leadership. I compared my successes. I compared where I'm at with where they're at. And when that shame creeps in and takes over, you'll find yourself being engulfed with the shame. And so part of self-mastery is being able to learn how to be with the shame rather than allowing the shame to take over. Can you be with the shame and the sensations of shame in your body without judging yourself, without criticizing yourself, and without making it mean anything about yourself? But can you just be present with the shame? What many tend to do when they feel shame is they want to numb it. They want to suppress it. They want to avoid it. They want to hide it. They want to cover it up. They want to pretend it's not there. They want to bypass it with all of these new age, new thought, spiritual practices and appear a certain way. But if you don't know how to be with shame, you've disconnected from your spiritual cultivation and your sacred devotion. Shame is what tends to take people out of the game in ways that are disheartening, sabotaging, self-sabotaging, sabotaging outside of yourself. But when you know how to be with shame, with your power, with your presence, with compassion, with gentle observation, you can alchemize that shame. And that shame starts to turn into wisdom for your soul, wisdom for your union, wisdom for your leadership. And this is when you can do things like people say collapse time, quantum leap. I prefer the phrase collapse time. This is when you are co-creating miracles with God because you get out of the way. Shame causes you to make choices that are not true to you. Shame causes people to overeat. Shame causes people to drink. When I say drink, I'm talking about alcohol. Shame causes people to indulge in substances. Shame causes people to shame, blame, judge, criticize others. And so that it breaks down their connections with others, whether if it's personal or professional connections. Shame causes people to do these weird things that is not true to who they are, but their ego gets so involved that they start to push people away, push opportunities away. Shame causes people to hide. Shame causes people to not choose themselves. Shame causes people to go against what is best for them because they don't feel they're worthy and deserving of it. Shame causes people to choose the path of hard. Shame causes people to move in ways that are going against their spirit rather than in flow with their spirit. And so when we are navigating experiences such as comparisonitis, your ability to be with the shame is what's going to support you most to alchemize your patterning and habits of comparing yourself, your relationships, your business, your leadership, your successes from others. Putting you back into your body, back into alignment with God, back into your true nature of co-creator, and focusing on your path, your lane. I used to run for many years. In fact, I was telling the mister that I want to run today. I don't run as much as I used to due to injuries, but I started running as a younger. I started running at the age of 10. And there's a whole story behind that I'll share another day. But then I went on to be a very great track athlete. One moment, let me take a sip of tea. And I went on to be a Division I track and field athlete. And one thing we learned in running was the importance of staying focused on our lane, my race, my pace, my shine. And it's a philosophy that I've brought over into my life and into my union and into my leadership and into the work that I do. Because as an athlete, as a runner, we had to focus forward on the lane and where we're going. And if you turned around and looked back or you looked to the side, you would slow down. You would get off your own pace, you would get off your own rhythm, you'd get off your own flow. And I found that when I brought this philosophy into my life, into my union, into my leadership, it revolutionized the way that I engaged with comparisonitis. And I was able to start to be more curious when comparisonitis showed up. I was able to start to experience more compassion toward myself and for the parts in me that felt compelled to compare myself to others. And I was able to engage in a new experience with comparisonitis, where comparisonitis turned from this experience of disempowerment to an experience of empowerment. And I was able to alchemize the shame, and I was able to alchemize the activations and the triggers and the emotions and the sensations that would show up during those moments, and turn it into nuggets of gold, of wisdom that provided profound insight, that supported me as a woman, lover, and leader, so that I was navigating my life and my union and my leadership in a more powerful, profound way. However, there was a time where comparisonitis used to take me out, shut me down. And when I felt shame, I didn't know how to be with shame. I didn't know how to navigate shame in an empowering way. I didn't know how to be with shame without judging and criticizing and shaming myself. And so I had to learn how to navigate shame. And I would say slaying shame is one of my zones of genius. You know, that Gay Hendricks, he talks about the different levels of performance we have, and slaying shame is something that I have a profound gift with, where I'm able to hold safe, sacred space with others when shame comes up for them, whether if it's sexual shame, whether if it's shame around your authenticity, whether if it's shame you're experiencing in your leadership or business, or whatever shame is showing up as, and what experience is showing up. I have this unique ability to sit with others in the shame so that it is slayed, demolished, alchemized, transmuted into love and light, and able to provide this level of personal freedom that you didn't even know was available for you. And in my humble opinion, I believe that is what many of us are seeking, is personal freedom. Seeking ways to be free from the past, free from perceptions, free from ways of being, free from all sorts of ways that hinder us from the fullest expression of who we are. Comparisonitis is one of those that can shackle and burden you with not being the fullest expression of who you are. And when we are the fullest expression of who we are, that is when we create deep intimacy. That is when we create greater impact. That is when we are a magnet in the rooms that we enter, and we become the one that shifts the environment of the rooms that we're in. We shift the dynamics of the encounters that we have with our mere presence. That is the power of this type of self-mastery work. And so if you find yourself on a path of desiring to go deeper in your journey of self-mastery and cultivation, and you're ready to show up as a more empowered woman, radiant lover, impactful leader, and you desire support, you love mentorship, you love exclusive, discreet, intimate, safe support, I have some spots available in my mentorship that I would love to explore if it's a good fit for the both of us to engage in that type of relationship with each other. Simply reach out and we can begin the discovery process of what that looks like. If you found I shared something that was resonant to you and valuable, that you know somebody would find value in hearing, if you would share this, I would appreciate that. And stay tuned. The written transmission about spiritual cultivation is forthcoming. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon. Take care now.